When you talk about perpetuating a divide, you see that a lot of these voices only show up when there is an opportunity to, where something could get divisive or it can get controversial. Then you see a lot of these voices coming out, and when they have an opportunity to use their influence positively, they ended up using it more negatively. Well, you actually have asked a loaded question. It depends on which sector of the black community you're talking about. If you talk about who you see out in public a lot, what you see is your Reverend Al Sharpton, Dr. Jamal Bryant out of Baltimore, Maryland, Bobby Hilton out of Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're talking of the more conservative voices, Bishop Harry Jackson out of Beltsville, Maryland, probably one of the strongest voices that you don't hear a lot about, that actually speaks more on the conservative side for the black community. When you look at that word, the connotation is actually negative just by virtue of hearing. When you hear perpetuate, you think more of continuing a negative belief or a negative system. One of the more obvious voices that would probably stand out is Dr. Martin Luther King, obviously, because he wasn't divisive in the message that he was communicating. Assumption. I would change assumption more than anything. I think a lot of times when you're looking at division or you're looking at problems that arise, they begin with making false assumptions about people. When someone meets me, they may make a false assumption about me, have a false belief about me, and ultimately they decided how they're going to view me based on their assumption before we've even sat down and have a talk. And this happens in every sector of society. If I can build a relationship with you, learn about you first, learn about where you came from, where you're going, then that removes that wall of assumption, and we can actually have a productive relationship. I believe that people don't need to agree to get along. I think when we're partnering in ventures and we're partnering in certain things, there has to be a degree of agreement that we have. But to be able to sit at the table and dialogue, in our time today, if certain people on different sides of an issue dialogue, all of a sudden there's a problem. And there shouldn't be. We should be able to disagree and still be friends. We should be able to disagree and still be able to sit down at the table, have a cup of coffee, and have dinner and talk about different issues. I may learn something from you even though I disagree with you, and vice versa. You might learn something from me that you wouldn't learn if you never sat at the table with me. I look at having a daughter now, and when my daughter looks at me, I want her to see an example of what a man should be. And I think that in our culture, in our time, a lot of that is not really seen. You see more negative views of what a man should be like. When my daughter looks at me, I want her to see an example of someone who can communicate with everybody, who can have a relationship with anybody, who could sit at the table with anybody. If there's a disagreement or a problem, that we can solve it without creating more gaps, more walls between us, but we could actually come closer together.
I'd say the most vivid concept and thing that I've overcome is probably when I had my abortion. I'd seen so many things targeted to black females, and just to realize that I could go on and not be, continue to be the statistic and help other black females and women not be that statistic as well. When I was younger, I used to get, my friends used to tease me and say that I was talking white. And it wasn't necessarily that I was talking white, it was just that I was enunciating. And in their eyes, it was that, to me, it seemed like that black was uneducated, because that was what they were portraying. That in order to talk and say your words correctly, that you were speaking white. On both ends, yeah. I think with black people, you have, now it's going crazy with either police officers or, white people against black people, or, it's this, they're after us, or, they always have to watch their backs or things like that. And it's on both ends. I feel like that you'll have, like I said, black people with the police officers or whatnot, just take that as an example. And now they feel like that, they can't trust officers, or now they can't trust white people. And then you have the Confederate flag thing that happened with that. And it's just, it's a constant that we're the victim when it's not necessarily that. But I also think that sometimes people go out looking for trouble and then, or they find trouble, or they're in trouble, and then they're still playing the victim card. Like, what did you do to get there? Being around that, I knew I had to get out, because I knew there was something else out there, and I didn't have to be trapped in this, I guess, simple-minded mentality of it just being this way, and it just being about, black people, or it being about, the white person's always trying to bring somebody down, when it, it was just a matter of getting out, because not everybody is that way. I love Martin Luther King he said that his 4 children, he wanted them not to be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And I love that, because we are so quick to judge someone based on how they look and not what they have to offer as a human being.